the blackboard. Here's the equator. I said that if you take any point and then you look at the diametrically opposite point, which is called the Antipodes, what is the chance that these 2 points would have the same temperature? Well, it's far-fetched, it's idiotic, it's not going to happen. And yet, mathematically, it is true that there is one point for sure, that for this point, in fact, the temperature at the opposite is equal. And people say, well, what if it's raining, or what if the sun wasn't shining, or what if it was cloudy? But it's not a question about weather at all, it's just a question about mathematics. And the only fact I'm trying to use, which is based on calling it temperature, is that we immediately understand that if the temperature at a certain point is 20 degrees, that the temperature is not 30 degrees at an immediately adjacent point, that the temperature does not suddenly jump in an infinitely small space to a high value, which is to say, mathematically, we are discussing the realm of continuous functions. So mathematically speaking, we would say that for any continuous function on a circle, that the function must assume the same value at diametrical points somehow, somewhere. And then we'll see why it's true, and it's obvious if you think about it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to prove it. But we'll lay the equator out. We'll lay the equator out on a line. We unroll it, and we say, here's where we start, and there's a certain temperature. There's a certain temperature here, and the temperature is different everywhere. But there's one thing for sure, is that when we come around and make full circle, the temperature is the same again, because we've just rolled it out. This point is the same point as this point. So when you come around full circle, that the temperature is the same. But what we said is when you go halfway around, is the temperature the same? Well, let's look halfway around. If I divide it in half and I say over here, okay, here's the temperature halfway around, and it's different. The temperature is different. In fact, the temperature is lower. The temperature is lower. Notice that here the temperature is higher and here the temperature is lower, so it's different. And then we're going to look for the point where the temperatures are the same. So we'll move over a little bit. We'll move over an inch here and an inch here. And we'll find here the temperature is different still. It's a little lower and it's a little higher. Notice here, the temperature here is still higher than the temperature here. The temperature here is still higher than the temperature here. But notice if we keep doing this process of moving over a little bit, the temperature here, and compared to the temperature here, 180 degrees around, well, here they look like they're pretty much not that different. But maybe we were just lucky. Maybe it was just lucky because this could have been different. I didn't have to draw it that way. I could have drawn it that way. And then they'd still be different. But look, the thing is, here the temperature is still higher than over there. But if you, by the time you get around 180 degrees and look at this one, you're saying, here's my point, and across the world the temperature is hotter. It used to be, I was looking at the other point and I was saying it's colder, it's colder, it's colder, it's colder. It was always colder. But then I got to a certain point where I'm saying it's hotter, it's hotter, it's hotter. Well, somewhere along the way they must have been the same. I mean, either this one is always greater than that one, or if this one is always less than that one, at some point you must have had them the same. Is that obvious?
Yep.
Okay. Children, is it obvious?
Yes.
Did you understand it, Michael?
Yeah.
Attaboy.
Good boy.
Somewhere it has to be the same.
That's right. That's right. And there's an interesting extension to this problem, which was suggested to me by my old math teacher, Mr. John Barsby, who's now teaching at Ravenscourt these days. And he suggested that an interesting fact. And again, it's not a question about weather. We just phrase it in terms of weather so that we understand we're talking about continuous functions. You know, the air pressure is different everywhere around the Earth. At every point it's different. Well, you say, okay, but it's almost not the same. It's 101 and 101.2 or 101.3. It's almost the same. Never mind that it's almost the same. As a mathematical function, it's different everywhere. But like temperature, it's a continuous function. It doesn't change suddenly from one point to another point. Now, if we look around the equator, we have seen that there must be 2 points whose temperature is the same temperature. There must also be 2 points whose pressure is the same pressure because it's the same argument. But would there be a point such that the temperatures were equal at antipodes and the pressures were also equal? And of course this is far-fetched. It wouldn't be so because the two problems are unrelated. There's only one point where the temperatures are the same and only one point where the pressures are the same, so why would they be the same point? But if we expand the scope of our problem from the equator to include the whole surface of the planet, it turns out to be provable that, in fact, there is one point somewhere on the planet where, given the point and its antipodes, diametrically opposite on the surface of the Earth, that those 2 points share not only exactly the same temperature, but also exactly the same pressure. I don't think I'm going to try and prove that. I think the logic is similar to the logic we discussed in this question. But interesting facts of life and the universe. Anyhow, we're going to do a topic for today. I'm going to introduce the topic. A long time ago, I did a show on linguistics, specifically vowel sounds, the nature of the different vowel sounds that we use in forming speech. And at that time, I suggested that the relationships between the different vowel sounds didn't become clear to me until only a few years ago. Yet when I was a small kid, maybe 10 years old or 12 years old, I don't remember, but I understood the relationships between the consonants. And I thought everyone knew this consonant stuff, but I talked to people afterwards and I found out that everyone doesn't know all about this consonant stuff. Kids, are you listening to me? Now you got to listen because I'm going to ask you this question. And I haven't told these kids what the question is, but I want to see if this stuff is obvious. No horsing around on the set. This is a serious TV show. The way I see it, the consonants group themselves into three groups based on the letters P, T, and K. The P sounds are more or less associated with the lips, the T sounds are with the teeth, and the K sounds are more to the back of the mouth. And I don't think I'm saying anything controversial. I think this is sort of standard phonetic
You say T is teeth, I think T is tongue.
Okay, call it tongue. But anyways, it's whatever it is. Lips, tongues, back of the mouth, back of the tongue, front of the tongue, back of the tongue if you want it. Okay, and here's how they go. For P, P is voiceless, but if you voice the P, you get B. It's the same sound, but P is voiceless, B is voiced. Now you listen to this, children. Is there a similar correlation between the T sound, which is voiceless, and another sound which you form by vocalizing at the same time as you say the T?
T.
Yes, Michael, T. But look. P. P is a sound P, but if you voice it, it's B. Can you see that P and B are the same sound? Do they seem like there's a similar kind of sound? Diana, I fail to see the humor in this discussion. No, seriously, David. You, at least David, can help me. Does P and B sound like the same sort of sound?
Yeah, in a way.
In a way. Now, in the same kind of way, could you find a sound that corresponds to the letter T? Only that the P was quiet and the T was quiet, but the B has more power behind it. Is there a similar correspondence?
What if you said T while you're going, ah? What would come out?
Do the viewers at home know what it is? I'll go on a little bit. We'll come back to this one. K has the same thing. For K, the voice version is G. Is that obvious? K, G. Same sound, unvoiced voice. Is that right, Diana? Okay, sort of. Okay. Now I'll leave this one for the D. No, I gave it away. I said it. It's D. I was going to leave it and see if the kids come up with it, but I already said it. T and D, P and B, K and G. Now these are the ones that are sort of abrupt and short, and then similarly, there's the ones that are smooth and that can be sustained corresponding, again, voiced and unvoiced versions, lips, teeth, and throat versions, same thing. Now, corresponding to P and B, they are F, unvoiced, corresponds to P. The voiced version would be, no one helped me out.
Am I allowed?
Yeah, okay.
I think it's V.
Yes, very good. Is that right?
Yeah.
F and V correspond to P and B.
Yeah.
T and D, well, T and D are a little problematical. There's a couple of different ways you can go here. You could say that it's the TH, the unvoiced and the voiced version, like think and that. The and the. Or you could consider that S and Z would be the corresponding version. You see, the letters T and D, there is sort of a spectrum of different ways that they do get vocalized, and yet within the English language we only recognize them as either T or D. And yet, you know, there's words like little or pretty, where what are you saying? Is it a T or a D, or is it in between? So in that group of consonants, there's some ambiguity as to exactly where they fall. So this can modify in a smooth version either to the TH or the SZ grouping. K and G have similar correspondence, but these sounds corresponding to these are not normally used in the English language. Corresponding to K would be ch, like Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah, not happy Chanukah, happy Hanukkah. Let's call it Hanukkah. And the voiced version of that, I don't know what language they would use it, but it's clearly corresponding to ch, you would have r, similar to the rolled R sound, but it's not exactly the same. I don't know who uses that. Anyway, there's how most of them lay out in four blocks. Why don't I use colored chalk? I could have colored squares around this and everything. And we'll put some pink on the board. Pink and yellow and a lot of nice colors we got. See what nice chalk we got here. There's a few other odds and ends. There's the nasalized versions, which with the lips, teeth, and back of the tongue would correspond to respectively N, M, and This is not a composite of two sounds, it's a single sound. Not used in English as a single sound, but in any kind of Oriental languages. In Chinese, they use it as a single sound. And then there's a couple more that never did quite fit in, like L and R. Well, those are sort of special. I think they're obviously special. But this more or less covers most of them. Sh. Again, under the T, you don't know, maybe these also fit in here, sh and zh. But people have different ways of counting those and figuring out where they fit in. I don't think they do fit under the T. There's sort of another group that fits in between the teeth and the back of the mouth. And in English, we're used to thinking of them as composite sounds, like ch and j. We think of them as a composite. But if you think of them as pure sounds, and they form another group all their own, which I don't have room to draw on the board. But anyways, I think you get the idea. I'm going to talk about this a little more, but first of all, it's about time to do a song. Does any of this make sense?
I think you're trying to match up kind of sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, kids. Should I do a song now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we got the piano in the studio today, the acoustic piano, and with the big piano, I like to do these multi-chord kind of songs, and there's this nice one, Kenny Rogers song, which was sort of a crossover. It was a country song and it was a pop song. So, let's say about 10 years ago, it was one of the songs that I would say influenced me to start listening to country music, because it got exposure on the pop stations. It's really not a country song. It's a pop song sung by a country singer, Kenny Rogers. Ah, shucks, I got it wrong. She believes in me. While she lays sleeping, I stay out late at night and play my song. And sometimes, whoa, the nights can be so long. And it's good when I finally make it home. Oh, she lays sleeping. I try to get undressed without the light. She comes to me and says, "How was your night?" And I come to her and say, "It was all right." And I hold her tight. And she believes in me. I'll never know just what she sees in me. Told her someday if she was my girl, I could change the world with my little song. But I was wrong. But she has faith in me. And so I go on trying faithfully. Who knows, maybe on some special night, if my song is right, I can find a way, find a way. She lay sleeping, stumble to the kitchen for a bite, and I see my old guitar in the night. It's waiting for me like some secret friend. And there's no end. She lays crying. I fumble with the melody or two, and I'm torn between the things that I should do. And she says to wake her up when I'm through. God, her love is true. And she believes in me. I'll never know just what she sees in me. I told her someday if she was my girl, I could change the world with my little song. But I was wrong. She has faith in me. So I go on trying faithfully. Who knows, maybe on some special night, if my song is right, I can find the way, find the way, while she lays sleeping. Big song for Kenny Rogers back in about 1979 or 78. I always liked that song. It's, kids, what are you doing to me? You're laughing while I'm singing. No respect on this show, on my own TV show. Okay, now, yeah, we got about 5 minutes left in the show, and what have we said about the structure of the consonants? Well, I've just sort of laid them out there to show that I find there's some kind of order in them. And I think it's sort of interesting. And One of the things I wanted to mention was that in looking at the relationships between different languages, within these groups you're allowed to freely change from one consonant sound to another without changing the meaning of the word. Like Latin pater, German Vater, both mean father. P and V are the same letter. That everyone knows that, don't they? Wonder if, I don't have any other examples. Don't have any examples right off the top of my head, but yeah, in looking at words in different languages, if you want to say that they're the same word, the fact that one starts with a B in this language but it starts with a V in the other language is of no consequence, because those are the kind of changes that always occur when one language changes into another. Consonants tend to change within these groups. So T and D, K and G, TH goes to T. It's obvious. Obviously they belong together. And there's one transformation that seems a little bit strange, which is the transformation from G, the hard G in English, what we call hard G, soft G, G, J. Why are those sounds related? J is not in the group along with G. Similarly, C and CH seem to be related. It's not the K and the S sound associated with the C, but it's the K and the Ch sound. As in Italian, the letter C either has the hard C, K, or the soft sound, Ch. So K, Ch belong to the letter C, are related sounds in the same way that G and J are related sounds. And this relationship is not just something within the Western group of languages. It exists all over the world, and I don't understand it. But in Arabic, for example, they tell me a name like Gamal, Nasser's name. In Egypt, they have the G sound, but in the rest of the Arab world, they use the J sound. So it's Jamal outside of Egypt and Gamal in Egypt. G, J. Related sounds even the Semitic languages, as we all know, are not considered by linguists even related to the Indo-European family, which we belong to. Even in Chinese, believe it or not, G and J are related sounds. There are many words, for example, going from Cantonese to Mandarin, which when they start with G in Cantonese, the Mandarin version starts with J. Gai is chicken. In Mandarin, it's Cantonese, gai is chicken, like chicken gai Q. And in Cantonese, in Mandarin, it's G. G changes to J. The number 9 is cow in Cantonese, and in Mandarin, it's jiao. The name for gold is gam in Cantonese, and in Mandarin, it's jiao, jing, something like that. Yeah, all those words sound the same anyhow. But the point is, G changes into J. Even in Chinese, they're related sounds. Yet they don't fit in the same blocks on my pattern. Don't really have an explanation for it. And that's probably the newspaper. Okay, I was going to read a little bit from the newspaper because a couple of weeks ago we read a short bit from the Courier, the German language paper. And since we're on language today, we read one of the jokes a couple of weeks ago, but today I thought we would, there was something funny in the paper that I didn't get to talk about last time, so I just thought, test your linguistic skill by seeing if you can understand this headline. We will write it. There's a little headline here, interesting story. See, they have long words in German. Ask Neil if he could figure out what this headline meant. And
Well, I know mit means with.
Yeah, you got mit is with, and
Wurst, of course, sounds familiar.
bratwurst, knockwurst. If I said it in Jewish, you would know it was wurst.
Mm-hmm.
It's sausage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sausage with, and then there's a long word, and of course you see the long words and you sort of blank out on them. But if I put a little line in here, I wonder if this would help to understand the meaning of this long word. Does that suggest anything? We'll let you think about it while we play the song. This means, Augen means the eyes. And we'll let you think about what that one might mean. It's a story about Poland. Of course, stuff like that never happens in Germany. And that's about it for the show for today. So I guess they're fading us out. That's okay.
Must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, their father's help it slowly go by, and feed them on your dream, the one they fix, the one you know by. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh.